right. Good morning. Good morning. Robert Murillo, broker associate with Team Aroa at Compass. License number BK3373543. Checking in with my partner, John. What's going on?
Good morning, John Sepulveda, MLS 1309244. How you all doing this morning?
All right. We're live on the DM, Florida real estate. What's going on, John? I think everybody's good, man.
It's all good, man. It's kind of slow. Not much on the sort of news front. Market is kind of reacting and ended up yesterday up.
Mhm.
People were kind of feeling
Down.
optimistic. No, they're feeling optimistic.
Yeah.
Because the Fed, by raising the rates last week, so now people think that the banking crisis is safe, and they're starting feeling safe again and going back. Okay, they're going to forget about it.
Mhm.
And I was doing some reading yesterday. I still got to do some more research on it because there's not tons of information there yet,
Mhm.
but the data is starting to point to that. Sort of the next shoe to drop, if you would, with the banking industry, it's going to be. It seems like it can be commercial real estate. So, and what I was reading, something similar to the crisis in 2008 in residential. Something similar to that in commercial, and it makes a lot of sense. I don't the digits. I want to say it was 68 billion in commercial loans that are going to do this year to renew
Mhm.
this year. Meaning they're coming from adjustable arms, so they're adjusting.
Mhm.
Most commercial loans are adjusted for the most part. I mean, there's obviously 30, but that's a popular product is the 5 or 7 year arms. So the 5 year arms from 2018 are due this year, and I believe it's 68 billion. And the article I was reading, the piece I was reading, it said about 40 billion. They're expecting about 40 billion of that to be at risk because people are not going to be able, not be able to repay. Vacancies are, up. A lot of empty office buildings. People are just not renting commercial because of the pandemic. They haven't gone back to work yet. It's the office, so that's going to have an impact because regional banks are the ones that hold most of that paper. It's the
Yeah.
smaller regional banks that do the commercial banking. So they're already upside down, right? They're illiquid as it is. So you throw in defaults on these loans, and that could be the next thing that sets off the next sort of shoe to drop. And you add that mini crisis that's also starting to brew in the car industry, and there's going to be the defaults are starting to jump through the roof on in repos and defaults on car loans, and
Mhm.
those are also in a large way handled by the smaller regional banks. So that could be another sort of impact on the market. So we'll see. Stay tuned for more.
Yeah, we spoke about how when the government was printing money and giving out the stimulus packages and whatnot, you couldn't necessarily qualify for a home on unemployment or the stimulus support, but you were able to qualify for the purchase of a vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So now at the time that all of this was going down, when people were able to go back to work, a lot of them decided they were making more money sitting at home, relying on the government support rather than going into work, right? So in a sense, they were relying on that money to cover the cost of the vehicles that they're purchasing, let's just say, and other expenses. But now that that support is now coming to an end, it kind of like doesn't make sense that they have that payment and they go back to work and they're unable to afford those payments.
I have that story, and I read, I saw an interview of somebody from from the car industry,
Mhm.
and he actually took it a step further.
Okay.
And what he says, was happening was what you said, right? Everything you said. On top of that, that what people did was not obviously not everybody, right? But a good number of people, what they did was they went bought the car. They gave them the car with, they got the check, the stimulus check. They went in, they put that down, and they got whatever they wanted, right?
Hmm.
Then after they got what they wanted, they called up the bank and said, hey, the pandemic, because this was all during the pandemic, obviously. And they put the loan on forbearance, the payment on forbearance. So they got the
Oh,
car, they kept the car, they drove the car through the pandemic. Now the pandemic's over, the money's out, and now they don't have money to pay for it. And according to this guy who's doing this interview, that is it's a good number. It's a good, I don't recall what I don't even know if he knew or if he said what the percentage was, but there was a good number of car loans in that scenario, right? So it's a good number of people
yeah.
that did that. So they just bought the car and never made the payment, and the repo starting, right? So that's kind of one thing. About 3 weeks ago, I read Ford filed a patent to be able to remotely shut off the AC on cars where people were late on their payment.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they filed a patent. Ford did, to be able to do that.
So now they can
Somehow.
control they can control certain functionalities of your car remotely. So
Yeah,
if
and
you're late on your car payment and the
they're gonna shut
AC
your
stops
AC
working,
off.
oh
So
my
so
gosh.
when you start seeing people driving down here in Florida, in the summer with the windows rolled down, yeah, you're gonna know why.
That's
Um,
OD.
it's
That's too
crazy,
much.
man. It's
That's too
crazy.
much.
That's what. But you know what I mean? I mean that if they're doing that, it's building, it's bubbling, like it's building up. It's there.
I saw this robotic tow device, right? That literally somebody is remote controlling it, puts it underneath the car, and then has the ability to move
Lift
the
it.
car. No
Wow.
truck, no nothing. Just a remote control like this. It slides up under the car. The little pieces wrap around the wheels, lifts the car off of the ground, and then now the remote control can maneuver the car wherever they need to maneuver it.
Wow. It's insane. I mean, I mean, if you're seeing like it's building up, I mean, there's definitely, I mean, you saw that the dealers with, the lots were empty. This guy he went as far as saying that what dealers did, he said that the dealers made the most amount of money they've ever made, in cars and during the pandemic that never made that much money.
Yeah.
That when, people utilize like they just kind of learn the system. They're going with the money, no money down. The employment is not really checked, and I mean, the same thing in the housing crisis. The same kind of situation. They gave houses to anybody. They gave cars to anybody. They made tons of money. Great, wonderful. But now we got to deal with it, and the banks are now gonna that's just gonna add on top of the banks.
Yeah.
And then what the issue with the stock market is, a lot of that is there's a lot of bots, artificial intelligence. They have algorithms and things that happen. When this happens, they create sort of moves automatically. So the market is sort of reacting, and then you got the people on the sidelines who don't really pay attention to don't read, don't do this digging into this stuff, and they're just, oh, the market's up, the crisis is over, the Fed's, the banks are okay. Let me go back into the stock market, and that's going to create some problems.
You know what's crazy? When the whole forbearance situation was going on, I didn't even think about a forbearance on a car loan. I thought it was applying to mortgages only.
Same here. I had
So
no idea.
I feel bad. I should have not been making payments on my cars. Because I had the Jetta and I also bought a Toyota Tundra at the end of it was the end of 2021 that I bought a Toyota Tundra. Um, and I bought it because I had started a moving company, so on and so forth. And things had gotten a little tight at the beginning of 2022, but I also was running Turo as well. So what had happened was I actually got a client from Turo who was renting the truck on repeatedly, week after week, and paying full price. So I got, a little bit of an idea of what was going on with him and his business and his scenario. And, it happened to match that, like, that was an out for me. So I found that solution, like, all right, look, I'll sell you the vehicle. You're going to pay way less than buying a used vehicle, right? And this is essentially brand new. and I was able to take care of that. But it never hit me that I could have done a
A
forbearance.
forbearance, yeah. I didn't know that they were doing that. That's what this guy was, and it's like people just, they call the bank. I can't, forbearance. It's not making the payments. I mean, that's the same thing with housing, right? That's exactly what they did. And
Hmm.
and now the reality is set in, and the benefits have gone up. The final benefit, it was about a month ago, 3 weeks, a month ago, SNAP stopped the additional benefit that they have been giving people,
Hmm.
which is almost 200 and change. I mean, it wasn't but it was still, it's a part-time job. You know what I mean? I mean, it's
Oh
just
yeah, without having to do anything was
it's a
the best
part-time
part.
job. Yeah. So
Like now people got to focus on what they were passionate about or what their hobbies were. They were more about their enjoyability versus having to go to work.
real life,
So what's
real
crazy
life
also on top of all that was the used car value had gone up dramatically
through the roof.
through the roof, literally. And no pun intended. But so the used car values had gone up along with real estate, right? There was little to no inventory on the new cars, new vehicles. You had to wait so long. And at one point, I had gotten quoted on another Toyota Tundra truck that I was considering. And when they told me the price of the new Toyota Tundra versus the used Toyota Tundra, like they offered me both, I was surprised that the used Toyota Tundra they were
It's more
offering
money
me
than the new one.
was higher than the new one.
Yeah.
So I was like what's going on here? And then also I have a partner who um at one point she was considering selling her truck, right? And at there was like that shift just before the shift, they were offering her a sufficient amount to cover the balance, and then like just a couple weeks difference, the used car values went down, and they were offering her way less. She was gonna have like maybe between $8,000 to $10,000 difference on that offer.
Hmm.
So she was gonna owe out. But long story short, we wound up selling it to where she only had to come out of pocket maybe about $2,000. So then there was that shift. So
And it was
I
quick.
mean, yeah,
I had a buyer. I was doing a loan for a buyer, and she called me out. I was, hey, don't buy any car, don't do anything with it, don't buy furniture after the closing, blah blah. And she called me up and said, John, I need to switch my car. I was like, what's the matter? It goes, there, my car is upside down, and they're giving me $5,000 profit on my used car. Like, I have to take it. I can't, And she did.
Mhm,
5,000
mhm.
profit on a used car where she was upside down before the pandemic. The car was
Mm,
worth less than what she owed.
yeah,
Gave her 5,000 on top
on
of
top.
what she owed. So
Yeah.
she paid her debt and got a 5,000 credit to it's a new car. I mean,
So was
I
she
said, do it. You got to do it.
did it affect her pre-approval?
No, the pay it
Her,
didn't. We
her
did the
loan
math,
approval.
and yeah, we did. Obviously, if it had affected, she wouldn't have done it. But
Yeah,
the math, the DTI worked out, the payment worked out. She was fine, but $5,000
on top.
above of what she owed. So
Yeah.
she got paid off the debt, and she got a 5,000 credit towards the new vehicle. I'm sure
Mhm.
how much they got her on the new vehicle, I'm sure they got it back on the new vehicle, but that's what they offered her, and that's what she took. It's insane.
Yeah. So here's a quick golden nugget for people too. So like for instance, that Toyota Tundra is still in my name, right? It's still in my name, and I'm going for a loan right now. However, what a lot of people don't know is that one, and you can confirm this, John, if your car payment is being made from a business bank account, right? If a car payment is being made from a business bank account for at least 12 consecutive months or more, then they don't look at that towards debt to income ratio. Is that correct?
Only if the other person is on the note of the car loan.
Well, no, no. Even if it's your personal your business account, right? Like
Mhm.
if it was my business account, then and I'm paying it out of my business account, they don't count that towards my personal debt to income ratio.
only if the other person is on the loan of the car loan.
Okay, but check this out. In this case, it's the other person paying it and it's coming out of his business account.
If he's not on the car loan, he can't do that. Like they can't
What do you
exclude it.
mean?
So the car loan is in your name, Robert.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Peter Smith is the other guy.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Smith's bank account or Peter Smith's business is paying for the car.
Correct.
Right? So every month for the past 12 months, Peter Smith's business have been paying for the car. That's perfect. In order to exclude it from the real estate mortgage, it has to be, the car note has to be in Robert's name and in Peter Smith's name, or Peter Smith's business, or Peter Smith has to be responsible for the payment of the car on paper. Because
okay, so here's how we bypass that though.
Okay, how'd you do that? Let me see if I can learn something new.
An explanation letter.
No, doesn't work. Because here's the theory in underwriting, and and hopefully I'm wrong, right? But the theory in underwriting is everything in loans are everything is like income. It's a two year, right? Because somehow I don't know how they decided that this was the rule, but everything is like the income needs to be likely to continue for 3 years. That's literally what the guidelines say, likely to continue for 3 years. Okay. So they figured that if the person has been doing it for 2 years, for the past 2 years, consecutively, it is likely to continue for the next 3. Okay. There's obviously no rhyme or reason to that, but that's how the rule is. So that's why employment, 2 years, 2 sources of income, 2 different jobs, 2 years, overtime, 2 years, commission income, 2 years, everything is 2 years. So if they have it for 2 years, it's likely to continue for 3, right? So that's, everything is kind of based on that. So back to the car example. If Peter Smith, there's nothing obligating Peter Smith to pay that loan other than he's choosing to rent it from you or pay you for the loan. So if Peter Smith tomorrow decides, I lost my job, I'm not paying for the car, who is the bank going to come after? Is the bank going to go after Peter and repo the car from Peter, or is the bank going to come after Robert and repo the car from Robert?
From obviously for me. So
that's why an underwriter cannot exclude a payment from somebody, because you're not you're responsible for the payment. If the other party is on the contract, on the loan agreement, on the right, and is making the contribution, then you're fine, because that other party, if they're also responsible for making the payment, and you can, with an explanation is, Peter Smith has bought the car, he's responsible for the car, and he's been making the payments. Oh, okay, yeah, he's been making the payments, he's responsible. But if he's not responsible, there's nothing to make him make the payments, and somebody has to make the payments.
He's responsible, but he's not being held responsible.
He's not responsible.
Yeah.
He's responsible to you.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah. But it's not, but you're not you don't have the note. He's not, he's responsible. He's not responsible to the bank. So for the debt to income, right? That's what we're talking about, a mortgage, right? A debt to income. If the debt to income is 49.99 and excluding the car payment, and if the car payment comes back on because Peter Smith decides he's not paying it anymore, you got to add that payment to your total debt obligation, and your debt to income is going to go above 49.99, and now you're going to be above 50, and you can't do a conventional loan. Yeah. And there's no explanation that can overcome that. So
all right, so we're gonna see. We're gonna see.
Yeah, we're gonna look into that. And I mean, if they change the guideline, and I know what kind of loan you're doing, and I know there's no way that guideline is not they're accepting that. There's no way.
I guess we'll see, because we got the conditional loan approval. So
all right, I mean, just because that's,
and we submitted the everything they requested.
Right. You follow the logic though, like how it is. That's, that is the logic how they do it.
The technicality, absolutely, yeah, by all means. But that
would have been the case when I would like every person would buy a car like that and just have somebody else pay it for 12 months.
This is the thing. I learned this from a deal that we did in 2020, where we had a situation, not personal to me, but one of my buyers, she had co-signed on a vehicle, and all we needed was her friend, to attest to the fact that she was the one responsible for the payment. She was the one making the payments, and we were able to close.
You said the key word at the beginning, though. She had co-signed on a vehicle. She co-signed.
Oh,
That's
no,
that.
no, no, not co-signed. She
Oh,
bought it under her name. She bought it under her name.
there's no way. That is absolutely not that's not a guideline. Like, you cannot do that because it doesn't make any, like, because follow, right? It's the same logic, because they are not obligated to pay to anybody. Your
Mhm.
clients, your buyer's friend, even though they're making the payment, they're not obligated to pay. Like,
But
that is
again, it
that is
it
not my
depends
debt.
on it depends on where, like, for instance, we had to show proof of where the payment funds are coming
100%.
from.
You have 12 months bank statements, 12 months canceled
Exactly.
checks, or 12 months bank statements, not the invoice. 12 months, like the bank statements, if it's automatic withdrawn, or if
Mhm.
it's a check, it's 12 months canceled checks. You have to absolutely have that. But
Yeah.
you also have to have the other party be on the note for the loan. Like,
Okay.
that's
So we're gonna see. We're gonna see
yeah.
if I get my keys or not.
We'll talk. Well, no, I gotta look at the conditional approval, and I gotta
Uh-huh.
look at the situation, make sure it's, you know what I mean? So we can come back and update it, right? But
Yeah, for
I
sure.
gotta see the conditional approval, and I gotta see the whole situation. So but in general, the guideline is you cannot exclude another debt unless the other person is on the note for that payment.
Okay.
And again, it's simply there's nothing to obligate that other person. So ultimately, since you're responsible, you have to be hit for the payment, even if the
Mhm.
other person's making it.
Well, what we did, we put together, we drafted a promissory note. Um, and again, we drafted a promissory note. We signed it in front of a public notary, and he's been making payments ever since. So actually, now I met him through Turo, and now we just put him through the credit repair process, and he's gonna be a future home buyer. He might end up hooking up with you for his pre-approval.
Not if
So,
he's got another car payment. Not if he's
well,
paying
no,
a
we'll
car
make
in it.
sure we get that taken care of
All right.
once
No, no, and
he's done
I
with
gotta look at
the.
because I mean, and there is, like, look how easy it was when you were describing it. You said she co-signed for a friend, like, you know
No,
what I
no,
mean,
no,
like,
no.
so that the words can be messed up. So I got, like, we can look. I gotta look when I look at it. Like, I'll see the condition approval, and we'll look at it, and again, we'll come back and update it here, because it's a good thing so people can kind of see these are like,
Scenarios.
this is real scenarios.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. No, no, no. I can tell you definitely he's nowhere near the loan when it comes to my situation. But yeah, I remember the same scenario. She had three vehicles financed, two of which she was not paying herself. So, and again, it was that deal that taught me that golden nugget. With working with that lender at the time, we didn't know each other, so that was the deal that taught me that, and I've been able to help other people understand that too. So, um, the auto industry now with all these repos, right? How does that compare to what may or may not be happening or anticipated with foreclosures?
Oh, that's part of the problem, right? There's the buyers are on the sideline because the
Hmm.
media is telling them that there's going to be a housing crisis, and it's like 2008. So people are waiting on the sidelines. I've had people ask me, like, tell me, market's going to crash like in an 8. I'm just going to wait because I bought a house for 50,000, so I'm going to wait to buy another one.
Yeah.
Crazy, it's not happening. Because, see, the thing about the difference is, and I explained this last week when the first day or second day when I did
Hmm.
the roller coaster, the chart
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
was 4 million properties in 2008 on the market.
Yeah, I know.
There's 500,000 now. Like,
Crazy.
it's insane. You know what I mean? It's a whole
Crazy.
different market. It's a completely different.
Now we're short 2,000 homes. I mean, 4 million homes.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the difference. I mean, and that's the one thing, right? Number one, there was too much inventory, or a lot more, right, than it is now. But more importantly, the inventory back then, people were upside down because they bought these houses 100% down. waiting for the market to keep on appraising. They bought at the top of the market on a adjustable rate mortgage that when the market stopped, because there's only so much that, there's only so much it can grow, a single family, right? A house that's 350 forever, it can only go up that much, right? Can't go up to $1 million if it's just only a number that it's got to stop somewhere. So when it stopped, the bubble that's when it burst, right? That's when it popped. But people had no equity. Now there's like 37% of homes in America are paid off, have no mortgage. Then it's 50 something percent, 57%, all the loans, if you take all the different loan categories that are below 3%. So, you got a mortgage at 3%. Where are you going? You're not moving anywhere. You're staying put. Even if you buy a house, you're keeping your house. You're not. 3%. You rent it out. You're going to make money.
Closest thing to free money.
Free money you're going to get. So that has
on an appreciating asset.
An appreciating asset. So that's one. That's one issue. And then you add to to the fuel to the fire, or not fire in this case, right? That people have equity in the house. Like in 2008, people had no equity; they were upside down.
Yeah.
Now they have equity. Whether it's 10,000 or 100,000, it's still equity. Nobody's going to walk around. Nobody's going to walk away from 10 grand. It's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? People are not going to do that. Even if you can't make the payments, you put the house on. You have some equity. You put on the house for what you owe, and you'll get out of the house. I think people will do that rather than go through the pain of a foreclosure. Because obviously that foreclosure sets you back, and it's hard, right? It impacts your credit, and
you can buy again. And
it impacts your credit, impacts everything. So I don't see people walking away from houses like they did. Now they're going to be walking away from cars.
If you're more solutions oriented, like for instance, the situation that I had with the truck, I automatically knew. I didn't know about forbearances, but I was like, all right. There's this person, he's renting for me full price. I could be capitalizing on him renting it from me, but also here's a more long-term solution. Let me just sell the vehicle where he has a need and it meets my need as well.
Absolutely.
So I think people now are thinking a bit more creatively overall and seeing that there are solutions. There's plenty of opportunities to get out of that foreclosure situation without having to go through the whole process.
Correct. And that's why, I don't, that will aid. And I don't see that what these, people are expecting that this crisis. Now, there are some regions in the country where during the pandemic, people did some crazy things and moved to some, there's certain, California. Seattle, Washington, California, Phoenix.
But when you say did some crazy things,
they overpaid. They overpaid a lot more than.
Absolutely.
They went crazier than some of the stuff we saw here and overpaying for properties. In California, right? Silicon Valley, tech. Where are the layoffs that you've heard about since last year? Where have all those layoffs been? All been in the tech, all been down there. So those people are out of a job. Now, a lot of them are going back to work, but that's having an impact on the market. So those areas of the country, they will definitely see a reduction in activity, a reduction in pricing, but still nothing resembling anything like 2008. The California prices are insane, right? Everything's a jumbo.
Always, yeah.
Perhaps, somebody went and crazy and paid, way too much for a property they shouldn't have paid, and now they're upside down and they're going to be foreclosed. And hopefully not, but that's definitely going to. That could happen here in Florida. But I think the magnitude of the excess money that was paid was in these markets, and those markets are going to feel it more for sure. But that's pockets. That's specific to those areas.
Fortunately, Florida's just, I call it the Mecca of the world. Everybody wants to get to Florida at some point, whether they're coming to visit or moving to Florida. Everybody gravitates towards Florida. So I don't I don't foresee anything dramatic happening in this market like what people are thinking might.
Nothing like nothing in the data points to that.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I think you have to, at least I'm learning, and you have to look at the data, and you have to let the data guide you. You can't just ignore it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Fed has been ignoring it. So at our own peril. But
So when it comes to the banks, does the collapse of one bank lead to the collapse of all banks? Or
think about it. Look what happened with Silicon Valley. I mean, Silicon Valley on Wednesday, it was fine. And it was shut down on Friday. I mean, it took 2 days for that thing to happen. Because when you make nowadays, like in the past, right, to make a bank run, like a bank run is you go to the bank and take your money out.
pull out, yeah.
You got to go to the bank. You got to get out of your house, drive, go to the bank, get in line, stand there. Now you just go on your phone and do like this and transfer your money and see you later. So it happened, like, you know what I mean? From Wednesday to Friday, like it just happened. People just started taking the money out, and and so people get nervous. I read last night. I got to go back. Let's see because I read stuff and I don't necessarily save the article, so I got to. It's all kind of here. Yeah. But in the 200 million, the amount of. I'm not even going to give a number. No, forget it. I'm going to scratch that because I don't want to give wrong information. And I read so much stuff, like, you know what I mean? I'm just reading and seeing. And
we'll have to go back to that.
Yeah, I got to go and find it. When I'll see if I can find it. I'll see what it is and get the actual number and so I can share it. Not give wrong information. But it's the the pressure that's going to mount on these smaller banks. As a result of this, it's going to you know what I mean? It's going to cause pressure, right? It's just going to additional. They're already liquid, as we know. So this new run, like, so it's not like it can definitely happen fast if people get nervous about it and see the, like, okay, I'm going to take my money out. And that's what, like I said, the article I was reading is the amount of money that has been taken out in the past 2 weeks from smaller banks into like the large 4 banks.
Yeah.
Because that's what people think, right? People like, okay, the 4 banks, those are too big to fail. The government will keep those. So they take the money out of the smaller banks and put it into the, because some of this is, I don't know if you, we haven't talked about this. There was a big to do last week with the Secretary of the Treasury, with Janet Yellen.
Yeah, the one that you said she chooses who gets bailed out, right?
That's what she said in one of the hearings. Correct.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's what they're going back to, right? Exactly. So they who's on first? Did you ever you know what that is? You're probably too young. You don't know you don't know what that is.
No,
Abbott and Costello. You don't know what that is?
No.
Oh my God. Youth.
Put me on.
So Abbott and Costello are this comedians, black and white, right? I don't even know what year, like old. I was a kid. I used to watch it when I was a kid. And they have this skit. Google it afterwards and watch it. It's actually funny. Who's on first?
Okay.
And it's both of them are talking, and it's a monologue. It's a dialogue between both of them, and who's on first. And I won't tell you the joke because you got to listen to it. But it's this big confusion thing that they talk about. And the Wall Street Journal, I believe, is the one that was the headline, Janet Yellen and, who's on first, referring to that. And after the show, like, go to YouTube and watch the thing and you'll see what I mean. Because on Tuesday, she said, we bailed out the banks, Silicon Valley, and if we need to do it for other banks, we're going to do it. Then on Wednesday, in a different event, she said, no, we haven't talked about bailing anybody else. Actually, and on Tuesday she said, no, it's got to be a super majority by the Fed. I have to have my vote and the White House, and we'll decide who needs it, right? That's what she said on one day. Then the next day she said, we haven't talked about bailing out any other banks. Like, that hasn't been a conversation. And then on Thursday she said, we've used these tools that we have, and we can use those tools again anytime we need it. So who's on for, like, are they going to bail out all the banks or not? And She said, yes, no, yes. So nobody really knows. And that aids in the confusion in the market.
So aside from people's personal credit, who gets impacted the most with all these repossessions in auto loans?
The banks.
Because
What
I
that's going to
mean,
do, that's going to put pressure on the bank because that's money that they're not getting. Right.
mhm,
So they do a loan, they expecting their, so remember, the banks take the money that, people who deposit money in the bank, in essence, we're like shareholders. We're
mhm,
partners of the bank, right? Because the
mhm,
bank has our money. We're investors in this thing, right? Nobody really thinks about it that way, but that's really what we are, right? You take your money and you put it in the bank, and the bank
mhm.
takes that money, keeps 10% on deposit, and takes 90% of your money and invests it.
Yeah, so we're not
And
investors.
yes, we
We're
are.
we are loaning them money, right? But we get
Uh,
little to no ROI.
you can definitely, but you're really own the bank. You're really an investor into the bank. I mean, the real technical, if you boil all the fat, is you're and you get a percentage, right?
Mhm,
Up
mhm.
up north, we call it the VIG. You get the VIG is the interest, the juice on the money that you invest into this bank. They take the money, they do their thing, and then they pay you a percentage, right?
Yeah.
So what's happening is what's been happening for the past year or so, right? We talked about the yield curve inverted and the 2-year, right? All that stuff. I explained all that stuff, right? So what's been happening? The rates were zero. How
Mhm.
much were you getting at the bank in your savings at the bank during the pandemic?
I don't know, 0.0001.
Zero. Nothing, because nothing. The banks are like keeping your money and nothing, and they were taking the money and then they were out investing it, and right, and doing all these
Mhm.
crazy things, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with
That's
that.
what they do.
That's what
That's what
banks
they're
do. That's
allowed to
fine.
do. Yeah, yeah.
But they're greedy because they don't really care about you and I. They only care about themselves and their pockets and what they do. So, and they've been investing money and they have been making more money, right? Because the bonds, which is where they spend a lot of invest a lot of the stuff, which is save, have been going up in value, right? So now the 10-year bond was at 4% 3 weeks ago,
Mhm.
right? And people, oh my God, it's going to go up. So it went up. It went from like almost 0 to 4%. That's the return that people were getting. These banks are getting, right?
Mhm.
The problem is we're not going to talk about Silicon Valley. What they that the value they bought them lower, and that's where they're upside down, right? That's a different topic. What I'm kind of talking about now is that the banks started making more money on the interest, but they didn't pay the depositors. They were still paying them 0.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right? So now when this crisis started happening, if you haven't seen it yet, I've already seen it. You're going to start seeing you're going to start seeing all of a sudden like CDs, banks saying CDs, 5%, put a CD for 5%. Like I'm going to start seeing,
So
uh,
essentially the promotions, right, with the higher returns to get people to park their money with them.
but the point is that those promotions, they have been able to extend that extra income, if you would, into the depositors. They could have because there's a yield on savings. There has been a yield on savings, but the banks are still doing nothing. And you'll see
Mhm.
now they're going to start. I
So
saw them yesterday.
that's
CD
a
18.
matter of greed.
It's a matter of greed. Exactly.
Mhm.
Right. But people don't know that. People at home are like, oh, my money's safe in the bank. And no, they're putting money into the bank, and so that's what happens. Like, to answer your question, how easy can people can panic and, oh, my money's. I mean, if you work all your life, you got your money in the bank, and you don't know, like you're gonna go and take it out into what you think is safe. Some people think it's
Mhm.
safe having it cash. Some people think it's safe buying gold. Some people think it's safe buying silver. Some people think it's safe buying Bitcoin. Have you seen Bitcoin? It's gone up. Yes, there was almost 28,000. So
Mm.
18,000 not too long ago. I mean, it's just, and now they're saying it's going to go back towards 100. It could, if it breaks certain thresholds, it could go all the way up
Mhm.
to 100,000.
Yeah.
I mean, because people don't know where to put their money. They won't. That when if you have the money, where do you put it? It's got to be safe. So
Yeah.
that's the issue with banking right now. It's very fragile. It's definitely fragile, and people could still be affected because, again, if the commercial it does happen that way, people default on the loans. The banks lose them. They invested that money, think there was going to be a return, because remember, that's not the bank's money. That's the depositor's money.
Mm-hmm.
So they deposited, they took $1 million and did a $1 million commercial loan. That person has been making payments. Now it's going to adjust. Now the payment is going to go up. I don't know, 3, 4, 5%. I mean, everything is up, right? The interest has gone up so much that the margins have gone up. So their payment is going to increase dramatically, from 1 month to the next when this thing adjusts. So
Yeah.
the person's payment goes up. The building is vacant. There's nothing there's no, other than the money, there's really, they don't live there. It's not like a prime, a residence where the people live in the house and if they don't pay, they're going to
No, I
be
think
homeless.
it's
They can
most
walk away from
definitely
that and be like, oh, I can't pay this.
it's definitely going to be prime time for creative entrepreneurs
Absolutely.
at
But
the end of the
the
day.
banks, well, that's what it always is, right? A recession is always the people that are ready for it are the ones that always make out in a recession.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Warren Buffett's been making out like a bandit since this whole thing started. He just keeps on making money. Like
Yeah, well, the compound effect, it definitely took over for him
well,
many,
no,
many years ago. Many years
well,
ago.
yeah, but even in the investments, I mean, this is off topic, and I'll 2 minute on this. What did he do before the elections? He invested in rail.
Mm-hmm.
He owns the railways transporting the oil.
Yeah,
Canada to
yeah.
the south, because new administration changed. They canceled the Keystone pipeline. They canceled the Keystone. No more Keystone. But the oil is still getting transported. It's not coming
Mm-hmm.
through a pipeline. It's coming on trains. There's
Mm.
no difference. To
It's
think
still
the
not get
rails,
over.
there's no difference, right? There's a pipeline. It's built inside a pipeline and it goes through a pipeline, or it goes inside a tank on
And
rails
then and gets
in the
brought
same
over.
route. There's no difference. But guess who owns the rails? Who bought the train tracks? Like, who bought them?
I didn't even know that.
Oh, not a lot of people know that. Not a lot of people know that. See, that's the thing, right? This is we in order to know that, you have to do work and you got to keep up with it. And
Mm-hmm.
we're lazy. We look at the news now. Not even the news, it's social media, right?
Yeah, the
Whatever we
scroll.
see on the phone, and it must be true. If it's on social media, it must be true. But
Mm-hmm.
that's on risk. Those are the people that make money. That's if you're prepared, if you have finances. I mean, that's what I'm preaching all the time is to people, like, be prepared, have an emergency fund, have savings, because when stuff like that, recessions hit, that's when the opportunities are to strike.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to get to planning your next financial workshop because I definitely want to get on my budget situation too.
Absolutely, man.
So,
Absolutely.
all right. Well, we'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to discuss the future of smart homes and what's next in real estate technology.
I like
So,
smart homes. I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of smart homes.
so tomorrow's going to be exciting. It's Robert Murillo, broker associate with Team Aroa here at Compass, Florida. License number BK3373543 with John.
John Sepulveda, Origin Point, and MLS 1309244. Checking out. Talk to you tomorrow, guys.
All right. You caught another episode of the DM Florida Real Estate. Talk soon.